So, is Atlanta poised to be the Silicon Valley of the South? Well, in this video, we're going to talk about the major tech players in Atlanta, why they're moving here, and how it could impact the city. And that's coming up right now. Hey everyone, welcome back to Living in Atlanta. This YouTube channel is all about what it's like to live, work, and play in the Atlanta area. My name is Marc Brenner. I'm a licensed realtor here in Atlanta. And if you're looking to purchase or sell a home in the Atlanta area, I would love to hear from you. All of my contact information is in the description below. Please feel free to call, text, or even better, set up an appointment with me using the Calendly link below. We have people reaching out to us all the time to help them buy or sell in Atlanta, and we absolutely love it. So please don't hesitate to reach out. All right, so there have been some major announcements in the last few days about huge tech companies increasing their presence in the Atlanta area. So I thought it would be really helpful to make a video about some of these developments, why they're happening, how they may impact the city, and also if you're in the tech space where you may want to look at potentially buying a home. So first off, let's get right into it. Who are some of the major players that are increasing their presence in the Atlanta area? Well, like I said, there have been some major news stories in the last few days, weeks, and months, and one of the biggest ones has got to be Microsoft. Microsoft is increasing their presence in Atlanta in a big way that's gotten a lot of people to pay attention to what their future moves could be. Now, Microsoft already has a pretty solid presence in Atlanta with data centers in Douglas and Fulton County, but really the big news here is them purchasing 90 acres in the Bellwood Quarry, Quarry Yards area, Grove Park area of Atlanta. You know, this is near the Midtown area, but slightly to the northwest in some traditionally lower income areas. But this represents a huge investment into the future of Atlanta by Microsoft, and there's really no telling how big of an expansion this could eventually be. We know that this is going to be a mixed use space. Obviously, it's going to be a facility and campus for Microsoft's workers, but there also is going to be mixed use space for the general public, retail, housing, living space, mixed use workspace. And part of Microsoft's plan in investing in this area is also to develop some affordable housing, which will hopefully curb any negative impact from a drastic increase in money flowing to this area. Now, this is a very interesting place for Microsoft to focus on. Quarry Yards has been really anticipated by Atlantans because it's set to be the single biggest green space in the city, surpassing Piedmont Park when it's complete. So you have basically Bellwood Quarry, which is an actual quarry that will store and supply water for a huge portion of Atlanta. And then you have the surrounding trails, parks, and green space that are not currently open, but will be open to the public in the future. So you're gonna have a practical space for holding water and providing water for the city. You're also gonna have a lovely green space that Atlantans can enjoy. And now you have Microsoft buying a lot of the land around this development that was previously owned by Mark Teixeira's ownership group. They had grand plans for mixed use space like, you know, Pont City Market, Krog Street Market type of thing, housing. But now the focus is going to be Microsoft, which I think is going to be a lot better because they're going to be providing a lot more jobs, hopefully for locals, and encouraging people to move into the city. But this is a multi-million dollar investment into the city, and it's going to have a big impact on the tech scene, and it's definitely going to have a ripple effect for other companies looking to expand their presence in Atlanta. So that's one. Microsoft has been the big news lately, but another big player has expanded, and that would be Google. So Google just announced a major expansion into one of Midtown's high-rise skyscraper buildings. They're going to occupy over 19 floors and about 500,000 square feet of office space. Now, this is in addition to office space they've already operated in the Midtown area, and in addition to some data centers that they have in the area. So these are big companies with small presences that are majorly expanding really their East Coast tech hubs for each of these companies in the Atlanta area. Now, the third major recent announcement was that Airbnb is opening a tech hub, an engineering campus in Atlanta, and obviously that's going to be, you know, their major presence on the East Coast. Now, we know a lot less about Airbnb plans than we do Microsoft and Google, but safe to say they're making significant financial contribution and growing their presence in the area. Obviously, it's going to mean more jobs, and it's going to mean more money flowing into the economy, and it's going to mean needing more skilled workers, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Now, keep in mind when I mentioned these three announcements, this is not the only tech imprint in Atlanta. This is in addition to a very healthy tech industry, tech economy in the area. So companies like BlackRock, MailChimp, Cabbage, Waystar, major tech presences, in addition to large companies that obviously technology plays a big role in, companies that are hiring tech roles in their company: Coke, UPS, Delta, SalesLoft, SecureWorks, Fiserv, SAP. So these are household names, big companies, big brands that need very skilled, tech-savvy workers. So you really can see what was formerly a decent tech presence in Atlanta is becoming very robust and actually looks to be becoming a staple of our economy here. All right, so we discussed, you know, some of the big companies that are increasing their presence in Atlanta, but now I want to talk about why is this happening? Why are we seeing major commitments from huge tech companies? And it's actually really exciting as an Atlantan to understand, you know, what is attracting these big companies to the city. And really reading through the articles, if you do a deep dive on this, what it comes down to is a few key things. So basically, the quality of our higher education. So obviously, we've got a lot of great colleges in the Atlanta area. Georgia Tech is going to be a very relevant one to this discussion. Of course, we have Emory, Georgia State, University of Georgia in Athens. But what we really have that is attracting a lot of these tech companies that I think is something Atlanta can be very proud of is it's the historically Black colleges and universities that are a big influence on these tech companies making an investment in the Atlanta area. Really, it's an incredible talent pool for these big companies, constantly looking to add to their talent, constantly looking for skilled people to hire. There's never enough. And you know, what's really interesting is that it's not just talent, but it's diverse talent. And that's probably the biggest reason a lot of these companies are looking at Atlanta, because they want to diversify. They want to give new groups of people opportunities, hopefully for the right reasons, just because it's the right thing to do. And these people are underrepresented at a lot of these companies. But for, you know, whatever the real reasons are, the reality is a lot of these bigger companies want to become more diverse. They want to hire women. They want to hire people of color. They want to diversify from what is generally white male dominated industry. And Atlanta is the perfect place for this. You've got the highest concentration of the most educated, diverse group of workers, right? So that's an amazing thing. And these are going to be the feeding lines into these companies. A lot of these historically Black colleges and universities, in addition to the other great colleges, obviously Georgia Tech is going to have a lot of talent to provide these companies, but it's really the higher education and the diversity of the potential hires that is the major influence for these companies looking to Atlanta, in addition to cost of living, the things we talk about when we talk about why normal folk are moving here for whatever reason. Cost of living, if you think about comparing that to San Francisco or Seattle, the traditional tech hubs, it's going to be a big difference. Think about not only the cost of living for the people there, but physical space, dirt, land, these companies building warehouses, office spaces, buying large tracts of land for their campuses. Obviously, we've got a lot of land in Georgia, a lot of undeveloped land, and even land that is developed much, much cheaper than it would be in a lot of these other major cities. But here's the fourth reason why a lot of this change is happening. And it's another really interesting to think about. Not only do we have the highly educated, diverse workforce and the low cost of living and the low cost of dirt and land to expand, we have the customers for these big companies. We have 26 Fortune 1000 companies, 19 of which are Fortune 500 companies. So we have a major presence of big companies that are going to be customers, partners, just big pipelines for these tech companies, whether it's placing people at those companies or even getting people to invest in startups. There's going to be a lot of venture capital circulating around Atlanta in the next few years. Obviously, there already is, but you're going to have a lot of customers for these startups. And you're also going to have a lot of people interested in doing venture capital raising, investing in startups. So it's just an entire breeding ground for a lot of great things, a lot of big business to happen in the Atlanta area. So basically, we've got major tech players expanding their presence in Atlanta, Google, Microsoft, Airbnb, on top of the ones we already had, because we've got a highly educated, diverse workforce. We've got a very low cost of living, low cost of land, and we've got a lot of big companies that will serve as customers and partners to these tech companies. So really exciting stuff, but two more things I want to talk about. What kind of impact is this going to have on the city? And if you are in the tech space, where do you want to consider living? If you could have had your pick of where to live in Silicon Valley 10 or 15 years ago, that'd probably be pretty exciting for you as a tech worker. But Atlanta, in my view, you really do have an inside track in terms of where you want to set down your roots. But first, how is this going to impact the city? So we see what happens with a lot of rapid tech growth in other cities, right? You look at San Francisco, and although it's great that there's a lot of money, a lot of wealth in that area, it's a double-edged sword. When you grow too fast without consideration for a lot of other portions of your society in that area, you can have a lot of negative outcomes. And of course, if you care about Atlanta, we want to consider and discuss and vote on what's going to have the best outcome for the most amount of people. Now, what's really interesting to think about is, on the one hand, it's the higher education that is attracting these big companies. On the other hand, it's our public school system that may prevent us from really exploding and growing too quickly. That's a weird thing to say because, of course, we want better public schools. And it is a real shame that the quality of our public schools, especially inside the perimeter, are really not up to snuff with a lot of the other markets that this type of talent and companies would generally be attracted to. But also it may be preventing us from growing too rapidly. I mean, honestly, reading through these articles, what all the major players are saying is that really the only thing holding back the floodgates completely on Atlanta, becoming the next San Francisco, is the quality of the public schools. It's difficult to attract and maintain high-end talent when people with families and people with children cannot lay down their roots or do not want to lay down their roots in a city that really does not have great public schools. Otherwise, I think you would see growth unparalleled among any other major city in the country. So Public schools are definitely something we need to address, but also it may be a good benefit of a bad circumstance that the growth is going to be a little bit more slow, because we do want to make sure these big companies are investing in the communities, developing in the right ways, contributing to affordable housing, and you just want to give the city in general more time to grow. It just needs time to some extent so that there's not shockwaves throughout multiple economies, and which can typically lead to a lot of people, particularly poorer people, suffering because of that rapid growth. But saying all of that, reading the tea leaves a little bit, my last video I talked about the Atlanta real estate market, how I thought it could cool down a little bit eventually, but Atlanta's on an upward trajectory overall. The reality is, if you want to talk about the housing market in Atlanta with this major tech piece becoming more and more prevalent, I mean, you better get in now. That's all I can say. I don't see this city going backward. We've got a lot of factors that are attracting a lot of people and a lot of industries, and it's going to have a compound effect. And very quickly, a lot of people are going to be priced out of the inner part of the city, ITP. So I think you're going to see in the next 10 to 20 years a really robust expansion outside the perimeter, as a lot of these tech jobs will probably attract a lot of talent, a lot of young people making a lot of money, which will increase prices and price out a lot of workers who don't make as much money. So I think you're going to see real estate in a lot of the underdeveloped areas inside the perimeter absolutely explode. And I think you're going to see a lot of the real estate outside the perimeter, especially in the areas with better school districts, continue to grow as well. So in my opinion, there's going to be a pretty significant halo effect around the city for many years to come. But the bottom line is Atlanta is growing. It's got every healthy sign of significant, sustainable, long-term growth that you would look for in a city. So now is the time to get in Atlanta, whether you're starting a career, buying a home, whatever you're doing. Really, you have an opportunity still to get on the ground floor of something that's going to be huge in the next few years. So just thinking high level, best guess, professional opinion, 10 to 20 years, what does Atlanta look like based on where these major tech companies are expanding their presence? I think the hot spot, most desirable places are going to be in the heart of the city, close to the Beltline, right? So you've got the north part, ITP, already where a lot of the money is, Midtown, Buckhead, so on and so forth. You've got the northeast side with North Druid Hills, near the Beltline, Inman Park, Kirkwood, Edgewood, all the hottest areas currently, with all these tech companies and skilled workers making a lot of money working in these locations. I think you're going to see the west side absolutely explode. West Midtown, Westview, Ashview Heights, Mosley Park, a lot of these areas, West End, that are on the west side of the city near the Beltline, they're going to absolutely explode. And honestly, some of the more traditional areas right in the heart of the city to the west, like Bankhead, Vine City, English Avenue, they're going to have to transform as well. There's just going to be too much development and too much money going into those areas. So unfortunately, you probably will see a lot of those poor communities be displaced, be outpriced, and have new developments move in. For better or worse, that probably is going to happen for the future of the West Side and Atlanta. And because of how prices are going to rise in the heart of the city, again, you're going to have that halo effect where areas that are a little sketchy now are going to just get better and better in terms of prices, in terms of, the quality of the houses and the livability. It's going to push south, right? It's typically pushed north. It's going to have to push south as people get priced out of some of those more desirable areas. Of course, I think there's a lot of reasons why the neighborhoods around the airport have a very, very bright future, but you're going to see, I think, a lot of the poorer sections of Atlanta continue to be squeezed and condensed into the pockets in south and west. That's my best guess of what you're going to see in the next 10 to 20 years. All right, and finally, I want to talk about, if you are in the tech industry, If you're looking to potentially buy a home in the Atlanta area, maybe you're starting your career, or maybe you're coming with your family and settling down in a new role with your company, where should you live? What part of the city is right for you? So there are a lot of great places to live in Atlanta, so I'm not going to run through every scenario. I'm going to take what I think are probably two very common scenarios and give you some broad strokes advice. So first scenario is going to be a younger person, younger millennial with a high income, man or woman, whatever, but this is a person who wants to be in the thick of the action, close to a lot of their friends, close to a lot of hip things to do, and obviously relatively close to their technology company that they're going to be working for. So in this scenario, you have a younger person with a higher income. I don't think there's any doubt you want to be looking on the west side near the Beltline. This is an area that's still underdeveloped, still affordable to get into. You're close to the Beltline, which is one of the most popular amenities in the city. You're close to all the hottest neighborhoods on the east side of the city that I mentioned before, Inman Park, Grant Park, so on and so forth. And depending where you are, you could actually be utilizing MARTA's heavy rail on the blue and green line. So Westview, Ashview Heights, Mosley Park, West End, even eventually going into Oakland City, all of these neighborhoods around the west side trail of the Beltline really are going to continue to develop, and I think they're going to be the main point of focus for a lot of the younger crowd. And if you can get in there now, your property value is going to go up and up, and in 10-20 years you're going to be very happy that you purchased a piece of property near the west side trail of the Beltline. Now, the other scenario I would run through real quick would be a family, either a couple with kids or a single person with kids, but just a person in the tech industry where schools are more important. So you want to be close to your tech job, maybe close to MARTA heavy rail. You want to be in the city so you don't have a major commute. You still like to enjoy a lot of the amenities of the city, but you do need good schools. My number one recommendation for folks in that position, you probably will not be surprised by me saying, City of Decatur is an absolute fabulous place to live for a lot of different reasons. Best quality schools in the city, best quality schools inside the perimeter, great public schools, great private schools, very artistic minded community, a very family oriented community with a ton of awesome things to do, restaurant, bars, retail, everything you could want in Decatur Square, which is a highly walkable area, and we know highly walkable areas are rare in Atlanta. You'll also be in close proximity to most of the most popular neighborhoods in Atlanta, Midtown, Buckhead, all of these neighborhoods that people want to go spend time in will be 10, 15, 20 minutes away from you. And if you're working for one of these big tech companies that we already talked about, you're gonna have a very easy commute. And again, you can, utilize that blue and green line, use the heavy rail. For instance, if you're working for Microsoft living in Decatur, you could potentially take the heavy rail heading west, then transition and get on the red and gold line going north up to the Grove Park area if you work at Microsoft. So a lot of reasons why City of Decatur is an extremely desirable place to live, especially if you're going to be in the tech space, and especially if you're concerned with the quality of the schools. So those are just two scenarios. There are a lot of great places that you could potentially live and really be happy with as someone in the tech space in Atlanta, but those are two common scenarios I just wanted to give you some brief advice about. So there you have it, guys. That's what's going on with the tech scene in Atlanta. A lot of exciting stuff, a lot of growth, a lot of stuff to be really excited about, cautiously optimistic about. We talked about who's moving in, who the major players are. We talked about why they're here. Shout out to investing in higher education in your city. It's starting to reap some big benefits for everyone who lives here. At the same time, our public schools have a lot of work to do, and hopefully we can fund and support those initiatives that increase the quality of our schools. And we talked about what we think Atlanta is going to look like in 10 to 20 years. Hint, is going to be big, it's going to be filled with a lot of people, and it's going to be a lot of money in this city. And finally, we talked about where you might want to live if you're in the tech space. West Side all day. You've probably heard me say that before, but West Side, it's where it's at right now, in my opinion. And then City of Decatur is always going to be one of the best places you can live in the whole state. So I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope it provided you value. As always, that is my number one goal, to provide you value. And if you want to talk real estate in Atlanta, call me up. You've got my contact info. This is what I do, helping people buy and sell in the Atlanta area. So do not hesitate to reach out. Please like, please subscribe, and until my next video, I'll see you next time.